Right. So today we're going to do mammals. Last week we did birds. Yeah. So today I've chosen just the horse because I don't want to do too many things at in one go and then have it be too overwhelming. So I chose to use one animal, try and understand that how sketching of that animal works. If we have the time for it, we'll also paint. But since all of y'all are relatively new, I don't want to get into the painting of things, especially things like fur, immediately. So we'll do sketching bit, get the form right, and the fur thing can happen at a later date as well. So let me share the images as we see on the group, and I'll tell you how we can break this up. So we're going to do a bunch of pencil sketches on one page, only pencil sketching, because I want to use this topic for two, three outcomes. One is to get your hand going. So another topic for you to practice pencil sketching. Second is when looking at animals and drawing pictures of animals, we have certain ideas in our head. So I want to get rid of those ideas and those proportions of animals and help you to see on screen the picture of whatever you see and try and translate it faithfully as you can onto paper. That way, we confront our preconceived ideas. Like if I'd ask you to draw a horse, you might have an idea that maybe the back is a certain way, the face is a certain way, and you'll end up making a shape that doesn't look like a horse. Then you would say maybe it looks like a donkey or even a dog, and you have no idea what is going wrong. And you'd be surprised sometimes that also happens when you are seeing the picture right in front of you, and you're saying, I'm seeing a horse and I'm making a donkey, and I don't know what's going wrong. So it's all about those subtle differences in lines, angles, lengths of lines, shapes that you create, how wide certain things are. Like if the nose is too broad, that looks like a different animal. But in order to know your proportions, it's important to draw them and then looking at the other lines to keep adjusting them. So in today's session, I want you to learn to freely adjust lines that you have previously made the moment you receive new data from your own drawing and see that maybe it would be better if the line is different from what you already made it. Now, in this process, I would like you to draw very lightly so that you do not resort to erasing the lines, because it is important for you to see how you were observing and drawing and then how you changed it, because that is the information that you need to embed for the next sketching. If you erase the lines, you'll have a perfect horse, but you don't know how you got there. And it'll take a longer process for you to get back to that path. And you'll keep making minor errors, which can be rather frustrating. So it's just plain sketching. It's not a final illustration, so you don't need to worry about how confusing the lines look. All right. So here we have a regular horse with its, I think this is called a bridle. This is a beautiful portrait, but the person who shared this image has cut the tip of the nose, and I really hate it. So we are going to take some information from this horse's nose, and we're going to try and finish it. It's a small addition to the nose. We should be able to do it. Then we have the eye. I have found that if you can manage painting the eye properly, any animal you're making looks more real. Even if you screw up all the other shapes and proportions, if the eye is compelling, your picture becomes believable. So these are close-up images. Then you have half of the horse. Now, this is in itself an illustration. I don't usually go for illustrations, but this was such a beautiful posture that I thought we could try making this one. And this is the full horse, again, fully reared, rearing its head, looks very beautiful. And this can make for a nice, quick sketch of proportion. So we're going to start off with this face because first it's black and white, it is isolated, and we can see some clear proportions in lines and shades to make from for ourselves. Now, whenever you see any object, you look at the internal proportions and look for basic shapes that you find, which include a square, rectangle, circle, maybe at most a triangle, and also a line. Just a line itself can be important. So I'm going to try some lines to proportion over here, and this would be just one way to proportion, but you can find your own way as well. I'll give you a couple of options. Now, there is clearly a nice big circle at the jaw of this horse. So I'm going to make a circle over here. From here, I will make a line that goes straight through the center all the way down to where I need its mouth or nose to finish, and all the way up as well. Now I will use the circle and the measurement of the circle to also proportion the face. So I think I'm just visually checking it. I'm literally doing this on my camera, on my screen, and checking if this is the proportion where the circle ends. So slightly higher. So I know that this would be 2 circles tall. I've changed the color so you know that we're looking at the same circle, but now this is positioned slightly to the left only because I can't control these things. All your proportions can come from that first original circle. Now, if we were to draw a line at half horizontal, that gives us an idea of where the eye is and also at what distance. So the eye is at maybe half the distance. So it's this distance taken to the left is where we have the forehead, and exactly at this junction we have the eye. The shape of the eye is like a rhombus at this point, and it's fairly equidistant on both sides. And then from the forehead, you have a line that comes almost straight down. And here we can use the direction of line using the clock face analysis. So this is not 6 o'clock, maybe not even 5 o'clock. So somewhere between 5 and 6. Likewise, from that side, we have something that comes maybe towards 7 o'clock. And it doesn't come all the way to the bottom. It comes at maybe 1/4 of the way, or even less than that, in the second circle. Okay, so are you seeing these shapes within the lines and circles that I'm making? Now I'll also give myself an angle for the ears, and also see the direction of the ears matters. Sometimes I'm going to make this picture, draw a line over here. Sometimes you don't see the angle and you'll end up drawing the ear differently. You probably might draw it like this. And then you wonder, why is it not looking good? Because we just don't see these angles unless we actually focus and say, where does this line go? This is a shorter line, and this is a longer line that first goes outward and then comes inward. So you have to really talk to the line. Now, how far does this go? So even over here, we can draw a line which seems to be about the same size as how far we have drawn the eye. So over here as well, I could draw the bottom of the ear, which is the same distance as the radius, right? So a lot of things are happening at that point at half circle or at the radius distance away. So is this part, everything is connected over here. Now I'm going to share this image with all these measurements. If there are extra things like the hair or the other ear, I want you to figure that out using these measurements and these shapes. Okay, now you have the picture on the group. So let's make the picture of this horse about this size, the face of the horse, maybe over here, because then on top of this, we can draw that jumping white horse. We'll draw the eye somewhere in the center, and then we'll draw the upright horse somewhere over here. So the two faces can be over here, this way and this way, if we get to that. Now keep looking at the image of the horse and start drawing those geometric shapes first. Knowing how big you want to make the face of the horse, you can make a circle just about this big. It's no bigger than an inch maybe.
And see, our picture is also going to be the similar size of what you've
Yes.
shared on WhatsApp, right?
Yes, yes. Then draw the line that goes pretty high and comes pretty low as well. Draw all these lines of measurement first. Measure the radius and mark a line here. So even if you don't do absolute measurements, you can eyeball also. So just look at what you are making, look at the line that you see, and you can figure out if what you're making is the right proportion or not. Now, be warned that whenever you have things like two circles sitting on top of each other and all, there's a good chance that instead of drawing the nose over here, you'll draw it somewhere over here. So pay attention to these things. Okay, this is coming all the way down. Angle can be a little narrow. Then we have the nose. This comes outward a little bit. And right now I'm making mostly just straight lines. I'm not even making curved lines. The more sketching you do, the less you will have to do this talking to the line business. It'll be very instinctive. But in the beginning, it always helps to have that conversation. Now, don't make any details as of now because we really can't see the details through all these lines. So just make the outline, make a few features like this diamond shape that he has in the center. My horse's nose is looking, face is looking very short, so I'm going to make it a little longer. And also remember that the guidelines are merely guidelines. You are expected to veer away from the guidelines if that is what the illustration requires. Once you've got the shape in place, you can go back to the original reference image. Oh, wait, we need to draw the eye. So I'm going to draw the eye here. And before we draw this eye, we will draw the detailed eye. So don't finish the eye part, but we can start shading and furnishing more details for the rest of the face. Now for a sketch, when you're shading, you can shade with just lines. This is the ab exercises that I want you to do, the hand ab exercises. Being able to make a series of lines in different directions that are equidistant and of the same lightness or darkness throughout. So normally when we shade, we do this back and forth action. But that is fine if you're making a proper pencil sketch as the finished image. This is a study. So in a study, we are engaging in what would be termed as blocking. So we are trying to understand how, in this case, colors, shades, light, shadows, maybe even in this case, muscle groups would work or textures. So we are putting down a particular tone of pencil to block that shade. These sketches are like the sketches made by classical painters before they would make paintings. Those sketches used to be called cartoons, by the way. So cartoons, the term is not for what we term cartoons now, the casual illustrations, funny pictures that you see. cartoons used to be huge sheets of paper on which people like Michelangelo would have made sketches in pencil or charcoal, not pencil, because pencils were invented in the 17th century. They would make these huge sketches and block out colors and forms and shapes so that later on then they could use the same to mark those sections on walls or on definitely during when they made frescoes and paint accordingly. So we are making an equivalent of that sketch. I think this often happens when you idolize somebody and you feel, my God, their sketch must be so amazing. And something magical. It's like when people recommend a restaurant and you think that food must be like manna from heaven, and then you go there and you say, okay, it's still food. It's how much more can they do different, and you come away maybe not as overwhelmed as the description had led you to believe. So, however, if you are in London, please go to the National Gallery. They have three pictures, three sketches by Leonardo da Vinci, charcoal, and I think a sepia chalk on paper. And have a look. And they are really just sketches. Um, they're not like a magical picture because they can't be. He was, after all, just making a painting on a wall. But the thing to study and marvel at is the line quality, the freedom of the line, how it moved and how it created shapes, and the detailing. So, what is different in the sketches that we make and sketches like somebody as accomplished as, and by the way, there are lots of artists all over the world who are just as skilled. So it's not as if he was the last person who is that skilled, and then now nobody can do stuff like him. That gives us some hope that all we need to do is keep moving our hand to be able to create that kind of predictable line. So when you are shading this is what I noticed in his sketches as well. And if you can Google this, you can look for Da Vinci's diaries. When you're shading, instead of going back and forth, try to create a line like this, where there is a depressed muscle. Make parallel lines like these. When you're making this line, make it as if you are drawing part of a circle, and only when you come down to the page does the pencil make contact with the paper, as opposed to drawing straight lines. When we write, we draw straight, firm lines that start to finish. You can see the dark line. But when we are sketching, we have to draw a line like a feather. So it just comes, touches the paper, and then the pencil just lifts off, and you don't see a definite end. So I want you to strengthen. This is the hand abs that I'm talking about. Your hand should be able to move in such a way that you can make this a predictable line. So right now I've made lines over here. I'm going to tilt the face a little bit, and now I'm going to make lines which are slightly curved so that I get a three-dimensional feel on the neck, and also it darkens a little bit. So the stronger your hand is, the more easy it becomes for you to make these lines and block out spaces. Now, it seems as if, what is the point of doing this in pencil sketching when actually I wanted a watercolor or oil or something like that? What many people don't realize, and are never told, I came across this only accidentally through experience, is the fact that a light hand works well on all mediums. So when you can sketch lightly, you can paint lightly as well. So when you are painting in watercolor, when you need to make a wash, you are not pressing the brush and doing this and abrasing the paper. You are able to create various shapes by just deciding on how your brush is going to contact paper, in what direction, and also you are able to gauge how much medium you have, what color you have without having to test it. And all of that stems from the sketching exercises that you do. Now, wherever we are making a dark shadow, like here at the nostril or the nose area, apart from the places where you know it is completely dark, in other places like the front of the nose, build up that dark shade by going over and over with lines. And even if you're making lines, at some point, those lines will all merge because you're making so many of them. So I'm still making lines, but I'm reducing the space between the lines. This allows you to create a gradation and control where you want light and where you want dark and how dark you want it. So while I have made this whole section fairly gray, this is like a mid-tone gray, now I can add a little extra black over here, still lines back and forth, and create a ridge. I can do the same thing here, adding more lines, reducing the shape, and then making a ridge here. Likewise, over here, changing the angle and making a ridge here. And suddenly I get a section of the cheek that looks like it's raised. So you might not be or you might not know where you should do horizontal lines, where you should do vertical lines. That was my biggest problem. But even if you were to do vertical lines, say in this entire section, do it lightly. We have to make it gray any case. Wherever you see roundness, there you can make the shape along the parallel to the edge that you see. And if you don't want to make it round or you're not sure, you can just make it like this, parallel to those edges and come inward a little bit. Break them up like that. And that should work in the beginning. So in this case over here, I'm going to make lines like this and then parallel. And I'm leaving a little bit of a white space. Actually, I don't need to leave it white. It has to be black. No, I'm making it black. And after you've done this, you could add a few things that will give us texture. So we have the veins on the face. But the line has to be like that. It has to be very feathery, wispy. You should not be able to see where the line begins. It should just emerge. Okay, at this point now, let's study the eye before we come to this eye. The eye on this horse and the eye we're going to study are very different. Here we hardly see any pupil. But if you don't study the eye, you will end up making just a very dark pit of the eye, and that'll make your horse look like the horse from hell. And we don't want that. It still needs to look like an elegant horse. So just next to this, we will make a study of the eye. I will go over again the shape so that you know exactly what I'm looking at when we make this. Now, a little bit of evolutionary theory helps over here. All mammalian eyes are usually round and looking forward. They're they have a white of the eye, but depending upon the species, the eyeball or the white of the eyeball may or may not be visible. Human beings have a natural tendency to find kinship with other mammals simply because we have similar looking eyes. So you may find that you are not too comfortable with reptiles sometimes, or even fish. We see them as separate from us, and therefore I think there are very few people in the world who would have reptiles as pets compared to dogs and cats. I don't want to dismiss them, but they're there. All right, now let's again start with basic shapes. The circle of the eye in this case is somewhat like this. So it's going to be hidden by the lids. This is the normal structure of the eye. If we were to see the whole eye, that would again look like one of those very scary skeletons, like I think Mars Attacks has got those aliens that do not have eyelids, and that looks horrible. So we have a upper lid. In this case, the upper lid is drooping down. So even for horses, it's the upper lid that comes down mostly, and the lower lid is smaller. And the lower lid is not a straight line. It's a curve. It's a much more pronounced curve, almost as if there were a full circle, but it's not concentric to the eyeball. Then you have the inner eye. Now you notice some other things over here as well. The inner eye is lower and the outer eye is higher. It's at an angle. This is again a trap because we'll end up making them in a straight line. Once this is drawn, you'll be able to see the concentric lines that form the lid on top and the folds of the lid below. So I'm drawing these only so that you can see all these. Now, when it comes to shading the eye, I'm going to show you on paper how you should shade the eye. I'll share this picture also so you have it handy, but I don't think you'll need it. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's start sketching. So may I show you first? I want you to just observe this. Don't draw with me. I'll give you some time to draw after me. As usual, we will draw the angle of the eye. On that angled eye, we will see at what point we have drawn the circle of the eye. And then we will draw these pink lines and keep looking to see if your line and the line on screen looks the same. This looks a little taller to me. And then we have the inner eye. The lid is not a straight line, so I'm going to curve it. And so is this, but it's just curved along this line. There isn't a sharp end here. The lid turns around and comes and becomes the inner eye like this. Okay, I'm going to wait till you draw this part and then I will show you the next part. We'll go step by step. Done? Okay, I'll wait. If you're looking at the screen up, then hold your book like this. Hold the book upright so that you look at your book and the screen without moving your head too much. Upar niche. If you want to keep your book down, then you should have your reference image next to you so that you can keep checking the shapes like this. There's definitely loss of information when you have to move your head. Okay. All right. Now my eye, I have now shifted back to the original image. And I can see that my circle has come too close to the corner over here. So I'm adjusting that shape. And on the left, I can see that it's fairly dark. And the lid is in, or the corner of the eye on the left is shrouded in darkness. And there's a lot of dark space over here. So I'm just going to leave it for the moment. Now, whenever we are shading the eye, this is how the eye should be shaded to make it look realistic. You must always start with if the eye is looking straight at you, it would be a complete circle. If it is looking away, it will start becoming like an oval. And if it looks sideways, then it will be just a disc sideways. So we'll go to those things when we do portraiture. Most eyes have a central lens. In some animals, the lens is horizontal. In cats, it's vertical. In horses, it is a slightly ovalish, but still more circle than in a goat's eye. Then you have this highlight on top, which is a bright highlight. And the bottom part over here is also highlight, but it's like a secondary light. Now I need to shade this in 2, 3 layers. So I will first fill up a medium to light layer through the whole eye. It's a very subtle difference between the two. Then I will start making it dark in the center, of the center, not the edge of the center. This is simply because I want the edge to be a really fuzzy shape, not a dark edge. So I'm going to abrase my pencil over here as opposed to the lines that we made over here. Here I'm going to start shading back and forth, back and forth. Now, because we have those lashes which are highlight over here, we can leave a few sections or we can draw lines for the lashes and shade in between the lines. I know this can be a little tedious, but it's totally worth it. So I'm going to draw these lines and shade in between them. In some places, you can see the lines coming forward and follow the direction of the lines. The top lid is fairly dark on the inside or where the lash line is. And from there also see where the highlight on top is and then look at the shape that you see next to that. It becomes fairly dark over here. and on the eye as well. But this is just the edge of the iris. Then you have a little section that looks like the white of the eye. So I'm leaving that unshaded and I am finishing the inner eye. Now again over here, I could goof up. So I'm not going to draw the shape. I'm going to arrive at that shape by shading from the eye going towards the corner, by creeping the shadow till I'm comfortable with the shape that I've made. Now here I think I've come too low and made it too narrow. So I'm going to adjust that. And leave it as this for now and make the rest of the adjustments. Now here again, I'm going to pull my lid up. Are you with me or do you want me to wait? Okay, so I'll carry on. As you proceed, you will start seeing different proportions. So you have to act on those proportions and then keep making those adjustments. The eye, the pupil or the lens of the eye comes much lower than we have made. So you can just extend that shadow further. And here you can also make some lines as texture going parallel to the edge of the circle. And now comes the adjustment bit. So I can see that the lashes end somewhere here. This is the corner of the eye, kind of. And my eye is to go upward. And then from here, I will insert some extra lines to make the lashes apparent. Focus on that highlight bit at the corner. And now from this shadow, see how much inside my eye has come, a good 2 millimeters or so. It's so subtle. And now I can start making the lid on top. There's a proper white highlight here. So I'm going to make in making the lid, you'll notice that it helps to make these lines like that going straight out. Then you have a line coming from inside, so you overlap or rather underlap. This makes the line look like there are folds there. This is usually the line that I discourage everyone from making, but over here, we need it. That's why I rarely ever call a line wrong. It may just be inappropriate at that time. Extend the shadow underneath the eye. There are a few folds over here which create a beautiful stark highlight. We'll leave that. And shade along the parallel edge of the shadow here. Now, in order to get a fuzzy shadow, you should, it's quite simple. If we if we have a shape like this to which we need to make a fuzzy shadow, you just need to reduce your pressure and go around the edge of that shadow to smudge it and blur it out. It's better to do it this way than to smudge it with your finger because you really have no control. So suppose you have a fold of skin like this or even fabric sometimes, and you need to make a fuzzy end to that. You just have to extend that line very lightly on either side and sometimes even on the sides of the line itself to make it look like it's a blurred edge. That's how we will make the wrinkles on the eye. So here I have one wrinkle that comes down. Instead of making a line like this, I'm going to make lines which are slightly at a tangent to that angle so that I can make a nice smooth looking, almost like a skin like texture. And now remember that not all highlights are white. The highlight over here is just a lighter shade of the animal skin compared to the lightest shades that we see on top of the lid and also the bottom. Okay, how's it looking? You're getting it? Okay, now I've shifted to my mechanical pencil to make the eyelashes even more pronounced. But you could also use one of those fancy erasers to erase these lines off after the sketching is done. But again, like I always say, my life is not tough enough, so I will do it the hard way just because. Okay, now with this, you get an idea of the bulges of the eye, the shape of the lid, and things like these, which will help you in creating the shape of the eye on the first horse. So again, I want to show you this before you draw anything. At this point, we can magnify the picture, the reference image, and this is what you will notice. This part of the eye is somewhere over here. It's pretty tiny. It's aligned to this bump over here, so you know its placement. You know that this is a curved line, so you don't land up making an angular line here. And you'll bring this down to some kind of inner eye shape. Okay. Then we have these lashes here. So you can just create a shape like this. It's not individual hairs, but it just acknowledges the lashes. And then what I'll recommend is to make a pseudo eye looking down like we made the eye here. So I will make the eye like this. I will create that lens in the center, and then I will shade the eye like we've shaded this, but with heavy shadowy areas to make it look like it's almost completely dark. Like we have the shadow on the right, we'll make the shadow over here, and also that way there's a little bit of life in this horse. And then you can furnish the rest with maybe slightly deeper lines. Going back to that texturing that we did, few lines here. Horses often look very worried. Like some dogs also, they also look very worried. You almost feel like holding them and telling them it's okay, the world is going to be fine, everyone's going to be fine. That should do it. So even if this is almost a fully dark shadow, the eye, it is not just a pitch black dark that we have made. Um, that will come and haunt us, literally. Okay, now this is like an intense study, and you can do this for all the body parts of the horse. Uh, I would recommend doing the eye, the snout, the ears separately, like we did it over here, so that you become comfortable, and then you can take on the whole animal. That is for the detailed study. But now I want you to take on the other sketches in a more casual fashion. So again, I want to demonstrate first, and then you can draw on your own. I'm going to draw the brown colored horse. I wish I knew what these colors of horses are. They have some lovely names. It's not just a brown or a black horse. They have some nice names for all the colorings. So I'm going to,
Tawny brown and chestnut brown.
yeah, very poetic. Anyway, so this one I'm going to draw. And I'm going to show you how this sketch is only for um, ab exercises, hand ab exercises. So again, look at your reference image and keep it in the same plane as your picture. So if you're sitting and seeing the picture on your laptop, then sit back in your chair and hold your book upright. Right, so I'm going to start this off with a sketch like this. It's a tiny face. And I'm only making these marks like scribbles. In this, I will find some lines which will give me the angles, directions of the various features. And then I will start building the shape from there. Use these cues like the bridle to give you some information. You can use extra lines to figure out where the eye is or where the other features are. You don't have to make the details over here, but once you draw the eye, you can make the hair, then you can make the strap on the side. I necessarily would like to see a very scribbly line. Yeah, my horse is looking like a donkey now. So I have now successfully learned how to make a donkey. Or is it just the screen? It's looking at that on the screen. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, donkey to donkey. Never mind. So keep adjusting these things and give yourself no more than about 5 minutes per sketch. You're going to make all the other sketches exactly like this. This is an exercise often used in art school where I have read books of certain artists where their art teachers would bring a cat into the class, and the cat would be um, tied up. I hated that part. And then the teacher, at least in this one book, the teacher would throw some water on the cat. And then obviously the cat hated it, so it would start wriggling, trying to move away. And the students were expected to make sketches of the cat during this entire process. I don't think that would be allowed in now, but that is the essence of a speed sketch. So you should be able to make the sketch of a horse while looking at the horse in real life. Something like this. Now, if you feel the need to make those shapes that we've done before, go ahead and make them. So you can make a circle or an oval or whatever to give yourself some guidelines. Go ahead and do it. But I want you to practice this so that if you have questions, and I hope you do, I can help solve those problems for you. All right, you want to give it a shot? Okay, I'm going to move on to the bounding half horse. Same sketch. If you have a sheet of paper, keep it under your hand so that you don't smudge, or use an old sock or something so that you don't smudge your illustration. Do you want to look at this, or you're doing?
One quick question.
Yeah.
This part of this brown horse,
Huh.
where it has this round thing.
Hold this part.
Yeah, that's a little. So do we also do those with like semicircular lines for
You can,
that
yeah.
fold to appear?
Yeah, see, it's dark in the center, darkest in the center, and then the edges are highlight because the section behind that is dark, right?
Huh.
This is how.
Yeah. Huh.
So that's how you shade it. So here in the center, to make it look round, this part, just
Huh.
the center of that shadow needs to be a little darker. That's what we see actually.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering how to get that roundish
Hmm.
shape. Huh. Okay.
Sometimes horses also have such enviable hair, no? So for some reason, my mom was under the impression that in movies, the straight hair that actresses flaunt is not their real hair, it's horses' hair. And she would keep telling me that. And I don't know whether that was because I would complain that my hair is not straight like movie actresses. And she'd say, don't worry, they just use horses' hair. You don't want to traipse around wearing horses' hair. Maybe it was just to make me feel good. Shall we try the next one? Okay, we can do at least one more. So that's the horse that is jumping over. We don't have to make it too large, obviously, because the space is too tiny. So just draw the lines the way you see them. And then you can make shapes like these also. Like, this is what sometimes I feel Hussein must have done. He drew the blocks of the horse. And some fellow must have come and
Then
said,
just filled up color or
"We
something.
need the painting today." And he said, oh, okay, fine, just take this. And then that became his style.
So this is the white horse, no? You're doing?
Yeah, the white horse. In this picture, the eye of the horse is very beautiful. Very nice rendering. I'm so partial to eyes. There was one time when in a kids class, I had taught kids how to draw eyes, and I had suggested to them that they should practice this by making a whole lot of eyes and then going and pasting it on objects in the house, like ketchup bottles in the fridge or any dabbas in the fridge. And it can be very spooky for the other people because they just open the fridge and suddenly you have a pair of eyes staring back at you. You should try it as a prank. It is hilarious. I have spooked myself because I tried to pull this prank on my daughters just once. I noticed this very nice shadow you have here, right underneath the, I suppose that would be its underarm. It looks quite nice.
No space for hooves.
No space? Okay. Never mind.
It's not fitting.
Don't make. All right, last one. We can make him upright. And make it, maybe you want to make it overlapped by this fellow. So I just check this out. I'm making now a silhouette of the horse. So I'm just going by the lengths of the lines in the place that they are and creating an outline of the entire horse first. And then I will fill in details. So this is slightly different from the earlier technique we did, where we figured out an internal geometry. And in this case, we could probably make maybe a circle here or a circle here. But you can also try this technique. So I'm making several lines over here as well, because this is after all a sketch. But I'm also making only the lines that are pertinent to drawing the silhouette of the animal. And then when we start shading, we will be able to assess accuracy of our shapes.
The bit of sunlight under the belly is so beautiful.
Yeah. We don't even see these things, no? When we're looking at a photograph, this we look at the majesty of the horse. We will look at the color of the horse and think, yes, it's all black. But then when we have to start sketching it or painting it, you realize that you might actually have to use a blue over here.
That the shape under the belly is almost like a skull. There are two eyes and
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. This one really has heroine hair. Also looking so weird. On screen, it's looking really weird. In the book, it's looking fine. Maybe I have pushed its head back a little bit. It's to come here somewhere. So that's it for horses. So I'm going to share the video of the Tuesday class with you as well, which was when was this? Yesterday. In that, we have made a cat, a dog, a hare, and a cow. So if you have the time, please go through it. Watch that, it's good fun. If you don't have the time, don't worry. Next week, we will be doing something similar with reptiles. But next week, we will paint. So if you have any favorite reptiles that you'd like to make, like, I don't know, chameleon, snakes. Next Tuesday's class, they've requested for a snake, cobra, in fact. But if you want to do something different, maybe crocodiles or whatever, think about it, even turtles, tortoises. Look for a picture and send it. That way I get an idea. And if that picture is good, we can use that, or I can look for a reference image that works. Okay, any questions?
I think with this freehand thing and the standing horse, the full horse, I goofed up the tummy a little. In the drawing it looks smaller and the real one is actually longer.
Yeah, these
But
things
that
are bound
this
to.
I think
Once you've
it
drawn,
actually does look like a cartoon.
so with drawing, the only way it's like hell. If you're going through hell, keep going. It's that thing. With drawing, you have to just draw it, and only after you have committed, do you know whether or not you made the right decision. But thankfully, a line and pencil is not a marriage, so you can keep making it again and again and making it better and better.
I'll share them on the group. I don't have to be the only one looking at this and laughing.
Please share it. Yes, this is all going to be good.
My horse all the horses are looking like donkeys. They're not looking like horses
I
at
know,
all.
I think I should have
I'm
just
just
taken a
trying not to
donkey.
say that.
I should have started with donkey first.
At least we know now.
Yeah, so this is
Eyes,
like,
the shading for the eyes also is like, I'm not getting the shading right at all. They're all looking quite dark. Like this eye,
mm,
this horse.
yeah.
I tried to do it light, but it becomes dark.
In fact, you need to make it even darker towards the inner eye, towards the bottom slightly. But wait for my picture. I'll share
Darker?
my picture
Why?
and then see it.
Because okay, okay.
My standing horse has no place, so he's headless right now. But I'll focus on the body and the tail at least.
Okay. All right. Cool. So there was this one kid in my class who was the youngest of the lot, and we were all drawing lions at that time, and he was extremely upset because his lion looked like a kitten. Like, I don't like this. I also want a lion. And I tried to console him, saying that this kitten is not a kitten, it's a cub. Maybe it'll grow up to be a lion. He said, no, everyone's got a lion, even I want a lion. But then I said, look, you're the only one in class who has got a kitten, and everyone else has got a lion. So your kitten is special. It worked for 5 minutes. He felt
Oh.
great that he is the only one who can make a kitten. Nobody else can make a kitten. Everyone else can make only a lion. So that's when I realized that now, Livia, you know how to make a donkey.
Now I'll try to make a horse.
Correct. So at least it's not wasted. Nothing
Not
is
wasted.
wasted. No learning is wasted. If you know how to use it in the right place, it will come in handy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
After
So I should,
seeing the
yeah,
pictures, it was so daunting that how will we make it? First lines were quite scary to start with, but then I said, okay, it's okay. Let's try it out.
good,
So
good.
yeah,
So it wasn't that bad towards the end then.
yeah, it was not that bad.
Okay, that's very nice. That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, chalo. We'll end the session then. I'll see you next week. So next week we will do the class from 6:30 to 8. Is that
Yeah.
okay? Because I think Ashwita
You
has to do a
wanna
lot of rushing
is
back and
six
forth.
is 6 okay? Because I thought it would get very dark by 8, and so if 6 is fine by
6
everyone,
is fine. 6,
6.
8
6 is
fine.
fine.
I know.
6 I'm
6.
okay.
All right. So we'll do it. Change the class timing and make it from 6 to 7:30.
6 to 7:30.
Yeah?
That will be nice. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Chalo. See
Bye.
you. Bye.
Okay,
Thank
see ya.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.